I'm kind of pitching myself here as somebody who's an experienced investor, but always, I'm definitely new to this business as well. I just want to speak about this product and just how much, it has really helped me, propel myself, get better with talking with sellers, actually be able to close a deal. My strategies right now have been primarily direct mail, cold calling, and cold texting. And I've found a lot of success with Real Estate IQ, especially being able to get in front of customers, have engaging conversations. And of course, I'm hoping to use all of that to build my own business and eventually retire off.
Excited to be here, and I want to say a big thank you to Real Estate IQ. They have the absolute top leads in the industry and just make investing effortless for all of us as real estate investors here in Texas and obviously everywhere else that they're focused. And I'm proud to be associated with Real Estate IQ. Love what you guys do and love how you all help investors so that we can focus on the thing that makes us the most money, which is the job of real estate investing.
I wanted to jump on this morning and give a shout out to Real Estate IQ. I began my journey with them a few years ago, just using some of the more basic products, the off-market leads. And since then, growing and visiting and talking with not only Steve, but other people who are involved with Real Estate IQ, I've had the opportunity to actually not only be a client, but I also became an investor with them. And that is one of the beauties of being able to be part of Real Estate IQ, is it gives you the opportunity to grow as an investor, especially in real estate.
I'm kind of pitching myself here as somebody who's an experienced investor, but always, I'm definitely new to this business as well. I just want to speak about this product and just how much, it has really helped me, propel myself, get better with talking with sellers, actually be able to close a deal. My strategies right now have been primarily direct mail, cold calling, and cold texting. And I've found a lot of success with Real Estate IQ, especially being able to get in front of customers, have engaging conversations. And of course, I'm hoping to use all of that to build my own business and eventually retire off.
Excited to be here, and I want to say a big thank you to Real Estate IQ. They have the absolute top leads in the industry and just make investing effortless for all of us as real estate investors here in Texas and obviously everywhere else that they're focused. And I'm proud to be associated with Real Estate IQ. Love what you guys do and love how you all help investors so that we can focus on the thing that makes us the most money, which is the job of real estate investing.
I wanted to jump on this morning and give a shout out to Real Estate IQ. I began my journey with them a few years ago, just using some of the more basic products, the off-market leads. And since then, growing and visiting and talking with not only Steve, but other people who are involved with Real Estate IQ, I've had the opportunity to actually not only be a client, but I also became an investor with them. And that is one of the beauties of being able to be part of Real Estate IQ, is it gives you the opportunity to grow as an investor, especially in real estate.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's get started. We have a couple of important announcements, and also we have really awesome content and class prepared for you. So let's get started. All right, so this event is brought to you by Real Estate IQ, the freshest data that you can mine and you can get from the courthouse. And what do we do with the data? These are basically motivated seller leads that some of them are in a very highly motivated situation. What I have learned and kind of experienced is that if there is a strong desire from somebody who wants what you have to offer, right? Whatever you have to offer, if somebody who really wants it and they're highly motivated to get it, your conversion rate is going to be so much higher than someone who's like, maybe I need it, maybe I don't, right? So just kind of any product, any kind of offering, it just applies. And so we have found a lot of success in the foreclosure market because if they don't sell it, if they don't find a way to sell the house will be sold for them, not by them, but for them, and they won't get anything. In fact, there is additional kind of deficiency that they would likely need to fulfill as well. And so, we're basically their next best option. And then the clock is ticking, right? The auction date is coming. And so there's a very, very high motivation for a high dollar ticket item. So as investors, I think that's kind of the advantage that we're working on. And the educational part of today, we're going to talk about how we can kind of leverage that and making money with real estate. Okay. let's get started. So if you haven't done so already, visit our website. Every week we have new market updates and classes that are available. There's also deals that are available that we put under contract, so you can purchase the contract if you like. You want to start getting into the real estate investment game. Real Estate IQ is the platform that you can get a lot of things, right? A lot of kind of very focused information in this niche. We already looked at a lot of success stories, in the kind of 10 minutes prior to us getting started. So I'm gonna skip over. This event, right? Everything we present here is for educational and kind of case study purposes only. And, certainly it's not representative of all investment experiences. And we don't offer any investment, financial, or legal advice in this next 60 minutes. And if you have a lead, or you got somebody say they're motivated, some typical situation that you may hear is, say, an inherited house that may or may not be kind of dilapidated, and they need to basically kind of just get out of it and not worry about it. Those are some of the deals that we can help on, and we can either partner with you or pay you a finder's fee, depending on whether you want to be a part of the deal or not. And we have an in-person event in Dallas, and that's tomorrow. It's going to be in the morning. The first, I would recommend arriving around 8:30, 9 o'clock. The first hour, kind of before the actual content, is kind of the power networking hour. So if you hear this from here, you get the tip is, you want to show up early and meet the folks that are there, right? You want to build high quality network. And the folks that come to this event tend to be much more, they're kind of the deal makers, right? Deal doers, and really high quality type of a network that you can connect with. And so don't miss it. If you don't live in Dallas, you can always drive up, stay the night, and then you can attend. So let's go over some market update. So even though mortgage rate is at 6.6%, buyers are still buying. The mortgage demand has now jumped 10.8% during the week of basically last week. Okay, so in addition to that, when we're talking with folks that are in foreclosure, one of the things that we want to understand is their current mortgage rate, to see if there's some creative solution we can do to buy the property from them. And the higher interest rate also kind of makes it so that, let's say if their current interest rate is lower than 6.6%, I kind of usually comment that is that, your house doesn't have a lot of equity, but, you got it, you locked it in a very good interest rate. And, a lot of folks are looking for good news, right? So kind of in the process of building rapport, I find that helps. Sellers are also cutting prices faster. We're seeing a lot of price cuts, and actually from an investor standpoint too, the sellers, they're having a hard time moving their property, especially if their house is not like move-in ready, right, in a pristine condition. It's hard for them to compete in the open market, and so they have to turn to investors for these type of opportunities. And obviously, expired listings is they're getting more motivated as well. Right? And we're seeing inventory growth in Texas, and that also creates opportunities for investors. So if you're actually doing deals, you might see opportunities, tons of opportunities right now. So, all right. Instead of the featured deals, I wanted to talk about our kind of prepared material today. and we're actually gonna go over kind of a series of these classes. Because I think we have, it's time to kind of refresh this content and, kind of talk about why we're doing this. Now, before I start, I wanted to see if everyone can see my screen. Can you all see my screen? Okay, I'm getting, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna assume you can see my screen. I don't have my phone like right next to me to see the confirmation. So let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the 6 ways you can make money and also build wealth in real estate. And this is very interesting because if you're interested in real estate as an asset class, right? It's a great asset class. I guess Wall Street talk says it's an alternative asset class, alternative to maybe the stock market and the bonds market. But it's a real asset, right? It's something that you can touch, you can feel, you can go there, you can live in it, and so it's a good commodity asset class. There's a lot of potential for appreciation, and it all depends on your strategy. So we're going to talk about the different strategies that you can use to make money and either short-term money or build long-term wealth. Okay, great vehicle. Okay, real estate investment, very lucrative. The real estate investors that we work with, they're full-time investors. They're doing a very big, sizable revenue type of business. In fact, we have a couple of success stories. This is an assignment, right? It's a wholesale assignment, and it may be a little bit more outsized than a typical deal. So, we're choosing this, maybe a little bit for sensational purposes. A typical wholesale deal, maybe expect on average like 10,000 profit. It's still very good. These are a little bit higher. Okay, so then the natural question, goes to like, how can we make money on deals, right? These are very, very good deals, and I would say that if you kind of consistently get deals under contract, right, and make a profit on these deals, then you're going to be consistently making these deals, and you're going to get all these outliers from time to time that is going to pay a lot of the bills. I think more than paying the bills. All right, so our promise to you in this class is that you'll learn about the strategies and techniques, right? And it's really good for new investors that are looking forward to kind of getting started. If you're an experienced investor, there's some tax strategies that you may or may not know. And so kind of stay tuned for kind of later on of the talk where we'll talk about. So reminder, turn off your distractions, right? And use the chat, be active. This is for investment purposes. We're going to skip over my story and jump right into the actual content because you should know me already. Okay, so the 3 items that we're going to talk about today is some money-making techniques. They're like 3 main strategies, and then some wealth-building strategies, and also there's some bonus materials for you. So congratulations for being here, and you're gonna get access to some bonus materials. So let's talk about the 3 money-making strategies. Okay, so the first one is fix and flip. You might have heard of it. It is in the HGTV. I think it's still pretty hot. Basically, you buy a house, you fix it up, and you sell and make a profit. In fact, in the past couple of sessions, weekly sessions, we were showcasing some of these houses that we were purchasing in small town Texas, and we renovate it and put it on the market. So you buy a kind of house that's basically needing repair or maintenance, and you buy it at a discount. You want to improve it in a smart way where you can sell more than how much you put in, and then you can make a profit. So usually you want to buy at a, we have a formula that you go with that you can buy below market value. In fact, an example would be a home needing work, and then you buy it at, say, a 70%, 65 to 70% discount minus the repair. I'll show you the examples in a little bit. And then you add value, right? So you're going to renovate a house, right? You want to know exactly how much it's going to cost to renovate it, manage a project, and then you can capture the spread, right? However much you put in, you're going to all kind of costs that goes into it, and then you're going to sell it at a much higher price and kind of capture that spread. So the key benefits is that you can capture those profits. It's usually a pretty sizable profit. A light fix and flip project, you usually don't want to get into it unless you can make 25 to 50,000. Some folks are okay with 25,000. Most people want to look at least $50,000 of profit before you get into it. It really depends on the size of the project, right? How much, and then what's the house prices in the area too. You want to make sure that your percentage of net profit is always there too. The couple of main risks that you want to look out for is that the prices or the buyer demand can soften during the project. Kind of right now, we're kind of in the phase of softening demand. And so if you're doing fix and flip, you want to probably be a little more conservative in your numbers, because when it comes time, the project finishes and you put on the market, back in the kind of golden days, some folks will even count on the appreciation during the project to either give them the additional profit they're looking for, or kind of make the deal actually work. In this market, I don't recommend doing that. I think being as conservative as possible makes more sense. There could be permit delays, right? Could be, in fact, the West Jacinto house, what we were learning is, number one, we couldn't turn on the electricity and gas because we had to get the city permit to do that. And the city would not give us permit until we trim out the trees. And those were not budgeted in our rehab budget, right? So we went a little bit over. The good thing is we had some buffer when we initially built our rehab budget. And then there's also another thing that we found out about the house that's also kind of out of the budget. So, speaking of that, that's what we call construction risk, right? You get cost overrun, maybe you deal with contractors and permit delays. And then also for finance and holding, right? Short term, you may fund it yourself. You may get a short-term flip loan. Yesterday I was just talking to a seller that used their own funds to flip the property, to fix up the property. They try to flip it, and the house sits on the market for many months. And so, fortunately, it's just their money kind of getting stuck in there in the market. If you have a short-term lender, maybe you have to work out the terms with them. So those are the things that you want to kind of watch out for. Right? Every single extra month of holding the house is gonna erode your profit. Okay, so for fix and flip, this is how we evaluate the deal. We do 70%. If you want to be conservative, you can do like 65%. Like just add a little more buffer for yourself. When you do 65%, though, it will be harder for you to kind of compete and acquire deals. So those are the balance that you gotta you gotta adjust for. So for fix and flip, right, the standard formula is 70%. So first of all, first thing we need to understand is the after repair value, right? We need to know what the comparables in the area go for, right? And these are the houses that have been remodeled and updated. You want to choose those houses as basis to come up with your value. And then you take the 70% rule, and then you minus your repair. So in this example, for example, let's say $70,000 to repair, then the most we can offer is $280,000. Okay, and let's say we acquire the property, so we don't need to pay any wholesalers on the wholesale fee. So when we buy this at 280, we put 70K in. The whole thing all in is 350. We want to make that spread, right? We need that 30% spread. So that's a formula, right? 70% of ARV minus repair. That 30% though is not always all profit, and we always ask this. We always get asked, what's the 30%? Right? That 30% is very sizable, but actually you don't pocket necessarily all of it, because there is a closing cost. There, right? You gotta pay closing costs at the buy side and on the selling side. Usually, when you're buying a distressed property, the buyer is the one that pays for closing fees. And then when you sell in this market, right, it's a buyer's market. So when you're trying to sell and exit, you gotta anticipate paying for the closing costs too. And then there's holding costs, right? Maintenance and everything when you're holding the property, electricity, insurance, all that costs money. And if you take a short-term loan, you also have to pay for interest, and there's financial cost. So this is a very simplified example, but obviously you can save some of this if you use your own funds. And everybody have their own kind of preference whether they want to use leverage or not. When you use leverage, you can have less money in and bring and get a better kind of cash on cash return. And you can also potentially do more properties when you leverage. So something to kind of think about. If you're doing your first deal, I think you can go either way. And obviously, if that's if you have a lot of reserve in your bank account. For those that don't have a big reserve and you want to get into it, then a short-term loan is a really good solution, because you can basically get a loan to fix up the house, and you don't need a lot of liquidity to do that. And you can make a profit by leveraging someone else's money, and then you can build that reserve over time. Okay, this is a very profitable way to make money for fix and flip. We already kind of talk about the risk, right? So during the time of fixing up the house, which can be 3 or 6 months, maybe sometimes longer if it's a big project, every day there is cost, right? So you want to make sure that you're accounting for that. And it's also important to remember that in the fix and flip business, you are basically in a construction business, right? You got to manage your project. Most of your attention should be on rehabbing the property, making sure the project is on time, right, on budget, and cost overrun and project delays can eat up your profit. Okay, all right, let's keep going. The next one is for wholesaling. So how the money is made is that you put the property under contract, you lock it up, you buy it directly from the distressed seller, and then you sell to another investor for a fee. So for example, for the first case, fix and flip investor, we can provide a house that we can make some money, and then they can also make their 30%. Then we can make a profit. So the advantage of this is that you don't need a lot of capital to get in, right? Fix and flip, you do need to have some initial capital to get started. Even if you use a short-term lender, you will still need to have liquidity in order to borrow the money. Not a lot, but you need some. Your profit is going to be on the assignment fee and wholesale fee. Then you don't have to rehab, you don't have to hold. So it's the least amount of capital that you need to do this as a business. So a couple of risks that you have would be if you offer more than how much you can save the wholesale, you cannot move the contract. And then also you need very strong lead generation and trust with your seller and your buyers. So here, if you sell to a fix and flip investor, if you kind of look at the formula that we saw earlier, we have this extra item of wholesale fee. So let's say we want to make 20,000, right? Then the most I can offer is 260. Okay, you can see that, if I'm a wholesaler, I can only offer this much. If I'm in fix and flip and I don't need to get paid a wholesale fee, I can afford to pay 280. So, I'm going to be more competitive if I am a direct wholesaler, a fix and flip, trying to buy these properties versus a wholesaler who can only, right? They need to make their fee and their spread. Now, of course, a wholesaler, the value that they bring to the market is that, you're finding all these deals that most fix and flip investor, they don't want to do all that hard work to get the deal. And then you can make your wholesale fee. Hope that makes sense. You can also do bird dogging. So bird dogging is somebody that looks for the distressed sellers, right? Make the appointments, gather the basic information, and then you pass the lead to either any kind of investor. So any kind of investor that want to buy directly from the seller, and you can collect a finder's fee or a piece of the profit. It really depends on your deal with the investor. Typically, it would be a flat fee for every deal that closes. Between 500 to a couple thousand, and you can also negotiate for a percentage of the profit, and payment usually happens at closing. So the difference between bird dogging and wholesaling is that when you're bird dogging, you're basically in the lookout for the deals. You don't need the negotiation skills to get the deal under contract. You just need to find the deal and you refer the leads, right? It's the lowest risk, lowest responsibility, and as a result, you earn smaller fees. On the other hand, for wholesaler, they put the house under contract, they control the deal, and they can sign the contract. And it's a little more risk for a wholesaler than being a bird dog, but you also get a bigger payoff. So it really depends on kind of your time and your skill, current skill level, to kind of decide which one works best for you. So mini recap, we talk about three things right now, right? Fix and flip, you're in the construction business. Wholesale, you're in the marketing and deal finding business, right? You got to negotiate and put it under contract. And then bird dogging is you're in the relationship and the marketing business. But like I said, it's gonna be the least costly to kind of get started as a business. Right? So it's a lot of sweat, a lot of sweat equity, I guess. If you want to put that, and you don't need a lot of cash, or just gas money. Okay. Make sure that for bird dogging, right? You want to bring highly qualified leads, right? You got to understand what's a good lead, what's a highly qualified lead, and matching them with serious buyers or serious investors. And make sure that there is, a lot of honesty and transparency, right? You're not saying that, hey, I'm a licensed agent. If you're not, don't say anything that's untrue. And let's see. And also, stress that you're not the actual end buyer for their property. A lot of buyers or a lot of sellers will appreciate that. Okay, next we're gonna talk about the three wealth building techniques. Okay. So the first one is, and you may have heard about this, is basically owning a rental. You buy and hold. You buy a solid property. You put a good tenant in. You put a down payment, and then every month you pay down the mortgage. And you also, ideally, if you buy it right, you should earn a cash flow every month. Okay, so very kind of standard landlord business. So here's an kind of cleaned up example. So let's say, and this is the formula we use. We call it the 1% rule. So what you do is you want to know what the rent goes for, the estimated rent. And you do that by finding out what neighboring properties are renting for, right? They need to be similar to the property that you're looking at, and you can estimate the rent. So let's say in this case, the rent is $2,500. Then using that 1% rule, right? You divide by 1%, which means you multiply by 100, and you multiply, and that gets you 250,000. And if there's some repair, let's say it's something light, right, cosmetic, 20K can actually do a lot to get a house rent ready. You subtract that, then your offer is 230. So you want to use that 1%. So kind of reverse that, right? Reverse that. I buy at 230. I put 20K in, so I'm 250 all in. And I want every month I make 1% of what I put in. That would make it a really good deal for me. Because I have to pay a lot of stuff. I got to pay for mortgage, right? Principal, interest. Yes, PITI, principal, interest. I got to pay property taxes. I got to pay insurance. Maybe there's HOA fees, maintenance of the house. But if I'm at that 1%, I can get a pretty decent cash flow. So as a landlord, that's very interesting, because if I have 10 of these properties, right, and I would basically make $5,750 every month if I have 10 of these, and times 12, that's $69,000 a year. If I have 20 houses, that's $138,000 a year. And so you can make a pretty good cash flow by letting these properties working for you. Right? So you don't have to work for money, basically. And in the buy and hold game, you are in the landlord business, which means you need to you can either work as the property manager, or you can work with the property manager, pay them a fee, so they're gonna get a piece of this cash flow. And your attention is going to be on getting a place leased as much as possible. Okay, reduce your vacancy rate, and make sure the property generates cash flow. Vacancy and tenant quality are the two things that you want to watch out for, because if you don't do those right, they're going to eat up your profit, your monthly cash flow. And wealth building. Speaking of wealth building, buy and hold have four things working for you in terms of a wealth generator. You have your monthly cash flow, right? Every month you're making money. You have appreciation, so you can hedge against inflation. There's natural appreciation, which means, as time goes on, the house naturally will go up in value. That's what we call natural appreciation. And then forced appreciation means we are fixing up the house, right? We're improving the house to force the value to go up. So there are two things that we can do to appreciate the property. And then we also have tax savings, right? We got depreciation, you get interest, operating expenses. Those are all write-offs. And then you are also paying down the principal of the loan. So you're building equity as you go up. So all of these are kind of compounding and adding up together to help you build your wealth over time, right? So we're talking about decades of time and kind of holding that. It's relatively stable, right? It's less dependent on short-term market swings. There are some folks that do, say, short-term rental, for example, right? Then you have to pay a little more attention to the short-term rental demand. Usually, if we're looking at this, as a kind of a basic strategy, a long-term rental. You can ride out the downturns, and as long as you make the property cash flow. So the most important thing is cash flowing. And then you can continue to scale, right? To keep adding up more properties into your portfolio. And over time, you're going to kind of build that wealth. And I actually just recently heard a technique from a coaching group. They say that, let's say you have all these cash flow. Let's say you don't need to live on this cash flow yet. You can actually use all the cash flow to kind of attack, right? Pay down the mortgage on either the property that has the oldest mortgage, or the highest interest, whichever one kind of makes the most sense, until it's fully paid down. And then then you have more and more properties that are just pure cash flow, right? Because you don't have mortgage payments anymore. And you take that, as long as you don't need the money, to kind of continue to attack the next property, to kind of accelerate that process. And I thought that's just so interesting. And I think it's a really good strategy. So some main risk for this is that it's cash flow, right? You gotta make sure the property is leased, and you want to make sure the rent really cover all the expenses. And if as an investor you have to kind of feed the property, right? You got negative and you feed the property. I've been talking to some investors that are in that situation. It's not a good feeling, even though you're keeping the property, you're still kind of burning cash every month. Ideally, for an investment, I want that money to keep coming in instead of keep feeding it just to keep the property. You have a property management risk, right? If you have bad tenants, poor screening, or weak management, that's gonna create issues. And then you also have market and interest rate risk if you are highly leveraged. So those are the things that watch out for. This is a really good way to build wealth slowly, right? It's steady, and you get reliable income. You get compounding equity. You get flexibility to sell if you need to. You can refinance and basically keep the property for long-term financial freedom. So a lot of investors like that. Okay, now let's talk about the last two. Is a little bit more advanced strategy. Maybe not that advanced, but a little bit not as well known, and it's how you can kind of multiply and scale faster. So here, our number two is the BRRR, and all these BRRR, we call it BRRR, the BRRR strategy. B stands for buying. Okay, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and you repeat. So you buy a distressed property at first, right? I want to make sure that it has good upside, and also basically I'm buying an ugly house. Okay, and then I want to rehab it, want to renovate to add value to it, increase the current value and the rent potential. So when we talk about the fix and flip, that's 70% of ARV. That's the type of house I want to buy, right? That's the price I want to buy too. So I buy, I rehab it, and then I put a renter in it. Then we can refinance and do a cash out, and then with a cash out we can repeat. So how BRRRR can make money is number one, you get forced appreciation, right? I'm rehabbing, fixing it up. Then with the renter in, I have a cash flowing asset, and I'm getting my capital back out to recycle, and then I can continue to pay down my loan, just like a traditional buy and hold rental. Quite a few of these properties that we're showcasing in our case studies, that's the strategy that we're using. All right. Okay, now this one is a little more complicated. So let's see if we can make this work. Okay, so this is called buy, borrow, and die, which is an advanced tax strategy. Okay, and depends on at least right now we can apply it, and I can foresee that for a while we're still gonna be able to continue to apply this. But it's basically it combines a long-term wealth and tax planning strategy where you grow a portfolio of these rental properties, right, that continues to appreciate. And then you can borrow against the equity. Instead of selling, you borrow against the equity, right? Because over time, as it appreciates and you build up more equity, you can pull the cash out, right? And that cash is debt. It's not income, it's debt. So the cash that you pull out is tax-free. And then over time, you want to, when you die, you let your heirs inherit those property. When they inherit the properties, they get a step-up basis, which means that they don't have to pay a capital gains tax on that growth within your lifetime. And it basically uses appreciation in real estate, or cash flow, the lending flexibility, and then you can also avoid a big tax bill. So let's dive into it a little bit more. Okay, so 3 steps. So maybe it sounds a little bit morbid. Okay, so the step 1, you buy, right? You buy the real estate property. Let's say you do BRRRR, or you just like straight up buy it, and then you hold it. And then over time, you're gonna build up equity over time, right? We kind of talked about in the first 2 examples. So we build up the equity. So now we can borrow against the equity. Instead of selling a property to get cash out, we can borrow against it. And you can either do a HELOC loan or portfolio loan, right? Pull the cash out. And those proceeds are tax-free because they are debt, right? You don't have to pay income. You don't have to pay capital gains tax, right? If you sell the property, you have to pay capital gains tax if the capital gain exceeds a certain amount. So those borrow funds can pay for your lifestyle, new deals, new investments, however way you want to spend it. And over time, you manage that leverage. The most important thing when you borrow against the equity on that property is you want to make sure that your rental cash flow can still service the debt, at least break even. Ideally, give you that, still give you the cash flow. And so you want to make sure that's managed very carefully, right? You have a good loan to value ratio. And then the last step is when you pass on the portfolio, if you die and you still hold a property, your heirs can typically receive a step up in cost basis to the current market value. So it's not about the value, how much you bought it at, but they're going to inherit it, and then they're going to get the market value of those assets when they inherit it. So when they sell, they're not going to be paying that capital gains tax between when they sell to when you bought it, but when they sell to when they inherit it. So that eliminates a lot of capital gains tax, right? And ideally, maybe they continue to keep the property, and then they continue to keep this process, right? So they just keep passing on the portfolio. That's it. So we're gonna give you some examples. Okay, so this is a advanced hold forever strategy. It assumes you're gonna be comfortable holding properties for a long time, right? Never sell it, and you're gonna coordinate the loans and estate planning together. So if you have quality rentals in a strong location, right, make sure your leverage is conservative. This is gonna work really well. And also the tax laws can change over time. So this is a framework and it's not a guarantee. It is working today. And the last remark, this is getting a little bit more on the advanced side, but the size of the estate matters, right? So right now it's 15 million exemption per individual, and that's a federal estate and gift tax exemption. For a married couple, it's $30 million. So with the amount above that, they're gonna get taxed at 40%. So you kind of want to be mindful on that in terms of estate planning. Okay, so let's give an example here. So say phase one, when we buy, the buy price is not very high. We buy at, let's say this house ARV after repair value is 200,000. Okay, we buy at 80,000. We put 50K to rehab it. So the total cost is 130. Okay, I also, maybe I shouldn't need to put hard money here, but let's just say we did do that as part of a more realistic example. Okay, so it's worth 200,000. We put in 130, so we have 70K equity. Okay, then step two, right? Remember, it's the BRRR first. So we rent it out, and then we refinance. So we were paying 12% interest with a short-term loan. Now we have a 30-year loan at 70% interest. And the bank requires a 20% equity in the house. So what that means is out of that 200,000, 20% is 40K. So that equity needs to stay, but you're able to take that 160,000 out. So with that 60,000, it pays the 130 original loan, and you cash out that 30,000. So that's something you keep in the pocket. You have a reduced payment, right? Now I have a 7% loan that's amortized for 30 years. And then I also have equity of 40,000. Okay, so that 70,000 turned into 30K cash and 40K equity. All right, so I hope that makes sense so far. Again, this is just an example. So in real life, the percentages may be a little bit different. Okay, phase three. Let's say 15 years later, the market value of the house has doubled to 400,000. This is where things get very exciting. And your old loan, because if you have been paying that down, right, your equity buildup, the principal has gone down from 160 to 130. So now your equity, instead of that 40,000, you've got 400K minus 130, you get 270. That's a lot more equity. 15 years later, you go from 40 to 270. This is how wealth gets created. So now we can go to the bank and take out a new loan, and we take $320,000 out. Okay, and the bank requires 20% down in equity, so we got $80,000 left. That 320 pays off the 130. Okay, that is the old loan. So now I can take out 190,000. So initially I have $30,000 in my pocket. Now I got another chunk. I got 190,000 in my pocket. And I'm now sitting on a much higher equity. Before I had 40K equity, now I have 80K equity. Okay. If you have questions following, let me know. I also have a recording of this, right? So where we kind of really go over the exam, and you can watch it again. If this is like a new concept, it may take a while to really digest it. Okay, so new slide. Right. So this is just what we were talking about earlier, phase three. So phase four, 40 years later. 40 years later, we can do potentially another cash out. Okay. But here, let's say 20 years later, the market value has doubled again. So now it's worth 80,000. The loan has been paid down to 20,000. So now, we're actually sitting on $600,000 equity. Remember, I already took 30K out, and I took out another 90K, 190K. I now also have $600,000 in equity. So if I'm still alive, I can take more cash out if I need to. Okay. Or, so this is where we talk about the scenarios A and B. Okay. If you sell it, okay, if you don't follow the buy, borrow, and die and you sell it, then you have to pay capital gains tax. So you sell it, you make that 60K in equity. Okay. And then you subtract that 130, which was your cost basis. That's how much money we put in the house before. Remember, we bought it at 80,000 and then we put 50K into it. So that was our cost basis. So now you have to pay capital gains on this amount. But if I pass it to my heir, when I die, their cost basis is now 600,000. They got that step up. So, and if they choose to sell, they don't have to pay capital gains tax. Now, it's likely they will continue to keep it and continue, right? Hold that property forever and pass it to their heir because they can continue to pull cash out on that asset as it appreciates. Continue to pull cash out. And then when they pass to their heir, the cost basis steps up also. So that's an illustration of how it works. If you have questions, tomorrow on Friday, usually on Fridays we have office hours. Tomorrow, because of the Dallas event, I won't be at the office hours. This is, to me, a really good scenario to really kind of dive in and really make sure we understand it. Maybe kind of the conclusion here is that if you kind of follow this, right, this is a little bit kind of further down the road, but if you kind of understand the concept, then the best time to get into real estate is today. It was yesterday, but yesterday is already gone. The best time to get into real estate is today. Okay, a quick case study. Okay, this is a real case study that we're following this process. Now we may exit the deal, right? We always want to have that flexibility, but ideally we want to keep it. So this is a 2.21 acre property. Okay, it comes with the floor plan looks like this, or excuse me, the lot looks like this. So we could potentially cut this out and have the property stay with the 0.21 acre, and then we have the 2 acre here that we can divvy up and sell off the lot or build more structure there. So we really like lots of open land. So we buy at 122, we put in 15K, and the ARV is 200,000. So this is what the house looks like before and after. I think this is also before and after, I'm not sure. But this is certainly before and after of the same room. And we didn't need to do too much on the house. It's in good shape. So these are the before photos. There were overgrown, big trees that we trimmed down. We spent quite a few thousand just working on trimming down the trees. They're so big. These are also before photos. This is a during photo. We're replacing the floor, everything. This is after. Because it's a rental, we didn't need to put in too much into it. So this is before and after. Before and after, we saw that. Before and after of the kitchen. Not that much changed. So here are the numbers. We got some rental checks here. Got a lease for 2 years. And then we're working on the refi. So the financials, right? We borrow hard money. We got private lending. So we got about 150K. And then the next step is to refi. And then we're doing the BRRRR, refi and repeat. And then we also, we want to hold forever. Or, at least have the flexibility to hold forever and kind of decide what we want to do with the lot and the asset and everything. Okay, I hope that's good for you. always open to questions. I'll get to the questions if there are any. So what we went over is 2 really exciting topics. One is how we can make money in real estate, and how to build long-term wealth. A couple of bonus materials. There is the rules of thumb in real estate investment that you can download. I'll give you the QR code in a bit. And then there's also the glossary, right? We got to understand the language. I keep talking about ARV and all that, right? If you already studied real estate before, you probably understand that. But if it's your first time kind of hearing it, what is ARV? What is, appraisal? That stuff. So we have a glossary prepared for you. And then how you get started is you can scan this QR code. We also have this live stream. That's what you're attending today. And let's see, what else we got? To kind of get started, right? You need to get a distressed seller list. And so Real Estate IQ is offering that list still at this price right now. And a lot of research is already done for you. And then, you get the data, you still need someone who can walk you through the best way to make the deals happen. So make sure you get a mentor coach. We have designed this Deal Accelerator program as well. It's kind of limited access. You got qualified to get in. And then we have all these success stories. And you can get started by scanning this QR code. Oh, okay, here's the link to the bonus material. So I'm gonna exit our full screen here. So that's what we have for you. Herman has a question. What about leasing a property with 7 bedrooms and leasing out the bedrooms? Okay, I love that. You can do that. So that's kind of like, I think it's called rental arbitrage. So basically what happens is you're renting the property, right? Your name is going to be on that lease. And then you can either, usually when you're leasing these bedrooms, you're doing more of a midterm or short term, right? You're probably renting it by week or by month. So you can either use Pad Split or Furnish Finder. And then by kind of breaking this out, basically you rented the house and now you're kind of retailing the house, right? To seven different people. And then you gotta manage the property. You gotta manage the dynamics of the people. I have not done these myself. I've heard that there is, people drama when they're all living kind of in that kind of co-living type of style. And I think that's very interesting. Yeah, it's called co-living. And you basically kind of have like a common kitchen. Some may have their own bathroom. They may share the bathroom. It's more likely that they share the bathroom. So they're kind of sharing the bathroom and the kitchen area. And then they have their own room. And you furnish minimally on these houses. And you can help younger people who can't afford a big rent. Yeah, for sure. And then because you're renting to 7 people, you can cash flow very well from the property too. It's affordable for them and it cash flows really well for you. And then Herman, you said how to vet. What do you mean? How to vet the property? You have, okay. I mean, if you got a deal that is 7 bedroom and 6 bathroom, let us know. Are you looking for a buyer? I may know somebody. Is it in Houston? So that's interesting. Please send me the information. Okay, rent to the vets. Okay. I think I met someone in San Antonio that focuses on that strategy also. that he fixes up. He buys a property. So this is a little bit outside of the main strategy we talked about in this slide deck. What I didn't cover: short-term rental. I also didn't cover like midterm or a co-living type of model, where you can buy the house. You can actually convert the dining room into a room. You can convert each living room, right, playroom, whatever room, into its own room. So now the house becomes just rooms. And then you kind of get it leased out and make it cash flow. You keep it minimally furnished. And then you can cash flow very well, ideally. Some people would have, say, there's like a very small room or something, like they made it like kind of like it's still a bedroom, but it's like not very nice bedroom. They would have a kind of property manager kind of living there. Maybe you give them a discount to live there for free or whatever, or a discount to live in that room. And then they help you manage the property, right? Manage the tenants and stuff. Because it depends if it's a monthly rental or weekly rental, there's a lot of turnovers. So you kind of need somebody who can manage it. Obviously, you can do it yourself, but you want to be mindful of that. You just need someone to kind of take care of that. And then another point I want to make is that in this case, you're providing electricity and water and internet or whatever, right? So you gotta keep all those in place. So your operating cost expenses is gonna be a little bit higher. Your fixed cost is gonna be a little bit higher than a long-term rental, but then your variable income can be much higher. So as long as you keep it leased, you can do it. Okay, Herman, you got a deal like that? You can send them to me, and I'll vet it. I'll look at it, and then I'll see how we can help you move it. Okay. All right, our time's up. Hope everybody learned something. Really good discussion. Also appreciate y'all, and we will talk again. Oh, an announcement is next week. I'll be traveling. I'll be out of state, so we won't be meeting next week, but we'll resume the week after. Okay, we won't be meeting next week. We'll resume the week after. So we'll see you. I'll see y'all in 2 weeks. Okay, bye-bye. Cheers.
I'm kind of pitching myself here as somebody who's an experienced investor, but always, I'm definitely new to this business as well. I just want to speak about this product and just how much, it has really helped me, propel myself, get better with talking with sellers, actually be able to close a deal. My strategies right now have been primarily direct mail, cold calling, and cold texting. And I've found a lot of success with Real Estate IQ, especially being able to get in front of customers, have engaging conversations. And of course, I'm hoping to use all of that to build my own business and eventually retire off.
Excited to be here, and I want to say a big thank you to Real Estate IQ. They have the absolute top leads in the industry and just make investing effortless for all of us as real estate investors here in Texas and obviously everywhere else that they're focused. And I'm proud to be associated with Real Estate IQ. Love what you guys do and love how you all help investors so that we can focus on the thing that makes us the most money, which is the job of real estate investing.
I wanted to jump on this morning and give a shout out to Real Estate IQ. I began my journey with them a few years ago, just using some of the more basic products, the off-market leads. And since then, growing and visiting and talking with not only Steve, but other people who are involved with Real Estate IQ, I've had the opportunity to actually not only be a client, but I also became an investor with them. And that is one of the beauties of being able to be part of Real Estate IQ, is it gives you the opportunity to grow as an investor, especially in real estate.